Preparing to live streams.
We've ordered the amendments.
Redirecting.
So we have to pause it, or it's going to be feedback. So pause it.
We've ordered the amendments.
We are live streaming.
I don't know why I have trouble with this. What am I?
Oh, there we go. Okay, so everybody's there.
All right, can everyone hear me? Okay, yeah, good. Sorry about the delay. We had some tremendous technical difficulties here. Couldn't even get onto my own Zoom. All right now. All right, let's see what we've got here. All right, I've got Baker. I've got Naraki. I've got Lehman. I've got Allen. Let's see here. I've got Boyce. I've got Healy. I've got, let's see here. Long.
I'm here.
Yep, just checking, just making sure I got, all right, so we've got a quorum. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. We just had a huge technical difficulty. I couldn't even get onto the daggone Zoom. All right, let's go. Oh, we're already live. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. It is now 12 minutes after 4. We're going to call this meeting to order. We have 4 bills we want to discuss. SB 125, SB 423, SB 171, and SB 46. And I'd like to start with SB 125 because that's got some amendments on it, which are different than the House amendments. Ben, if you could pick up the floor and talk to us about SB 125 and its crossfile, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so just to get everyone up to speed, and I think it's probably familiar to a lot of people, but when the House bill, right now there's the Senate version and there's the House bill. The House bill, HB 486, was the one that was voted out of EMT. This one had the seller notice. In the Senate bill, as it left the Senate, and JPR heavily amended the bill and replaced the seller notice with the general form buyer notice. Yesterday, the senator, the sponsor of SB 125, that's before us, that the sponsor of the Senate bill was in support of the House version as it left EMT. So I think, yeah, and again, the bill is about the disclosures if your property is near or approximately located to a Superfund site. Now, with that in mind, the HRP could do a number of things. They could, of course, move forward with the Senate version that is before us right now and has the buyer notice. HRP could move forward with the House version that HRP voted out with the seller notice that we had instead, the one that was supported by both Delegate Fair and Senator Young. And then I also just wanted to let everyone know that yesterday, the House version for House Bill 486 here JPR, they even though they amended SB 125 to just have it be the general buyer notice, JPR yesterday kept the House version that had the seller notice. So that's something to also be mindful of. They kept the version of the House bill that ENT voted out, although they made one small change, which was removing the specific language about the website that was cited in the bill to just be the general EPA website. And that was done because the thinking was that the name of the website that was in the bill, you can see here, it's struck, it says search for superfunds where you live in the dashboard. The thinking was that might change over time. So they just wanted to have it be the general EPA website. And in theory, that's probably not too much of a problem because the rest of the bill is still talking about the national priorities list, and it still has all the language about the proximity to the a Superfund site that's on the national priorities list.
So let me see if I could summarize this. Then the House version was passed out of JPR with a slight amendment to it, and the slight amendment to the House version was just to strike the specific URL of the website and just to identify on the notice to everyone that they should contact the website, the Environment Protection website. Is that correct, Ben?
That's right, Mr. Chair.
All right, and I see Delegate Boyce has her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you clarified for me because I was confused. And so essentially it sounds like I would be amenable to amending the Senate version to the House version passed in JPR. Is that what I'm potentially hearing we may do?
That is correct. That seems to me to be
I didn't
the
tell her nothing. I just told her.
that seems to be yes. I see Delegate Healy's hands up.
yes.
I got some feedback here. Who's talking? I can't see who's talking. Delegate Healy, you have the floor. I'll find out.
Okay, I also, I see things the way the Delegate Boyce has expressed it. I think that, that the Senate has shown a lot more wisdom the second time around, and I think we should encourage them in that way and just and go with their, you know, with their newly arrived wisdom to accept what we did with that one small change and just make this the same as what they did later to the House bill. If everybody's in agreement, I think that sounds like a good plan.
Someone needs to mute themselves, please.
Yeah, I'm please, yeah, and I'm trying to find out who it is that has all this noise in the background. I can't find that person, but you're correct. Thank you, Delegate Boyce. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, Delegate Long, you have a question?
I was going to make the motion, sir.
Motion for the amendment.
Mr. Chair, sorry.
I'm sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mr. And I just wanted to add, I did check with Senator Young and Delegate Fair. They're aware of the amendment made to House Bill 486 by JPR. Senators Young and Fair prefer the specific EPA website language. But of course, there was what I had added about the concern that the Senate, the basis was the concern about the website name or the link changing over time. So.
Yeah, and I'm concerned also, if we put a specific URL in the bill, that could change at any time. And then the URL that we put in the notice would be void because it wouldn't connect with anything. And so I prefer to have the way it came out of JPR not being specific for the URL. I see Delegate Lehman's hands up.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, did you just call on me? I couldn't, yeah.
Yes, I did.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I want to go back to just clarifying with the, all I'm seeing right now is the struck language. I know this is not a really long bill, The last I had heard is that, you know, that JPR, of course, that was before they sent this out, you know, had changed the bill dramatically. That does not appear to be the case now. And
Okay, let me go
before,
back. Let me go,
okay, before we vote on the amendment, though,
let me go back. Let
amendments,
me go
it-
back. Let me go back. So I can explain it.
Okay.
Let me go back and explain it again. All right, so the Senate passed out Senate Bill 125 with all those all those amendments on it. However, the House Bill HB 486 just came out of JPR. The House Bill HB 46 came out of JPR, and that is the version that both the senator and the delegate would prefer. Okay, is HB 486. The only difference between the HB 486 that went to the Senate versus went to JPR, which came out of JPR, is that they struck the actual language of the URL because the URL may change. So they just put in their language about contacting the website. And what we are considering now is to, for housing and real property, to pass HB 486 with the amendment for the URL in it, which came out of JPR.
Okay, so the only difference between the bill we sent over there and the bill that is in front of us right now is striking the specific reference to the URL where people can go to look up how far they live from a Superfund site.
Ben, you want to clarify that? I think that's correct. Ben?
That's right. So,
Okay.
yeah, there's the JPR version, and just to be clear, there was two amendments. This is the House version, the one, you know, that came out of ENT.
Mhm.
And this is the first example, the URL, Uniform Resource Locator. It had for the following, they had the notice, it had to be the notice in conspicuous type about the websites, the search for your Superfund where you live, and the Superfund human exposure dashboard, and they changed that to this, the website of the EPA. That could be argued that it's too broad. At the same time, though, they're also providing the definition of NPL, and the notice still, the addendum in the sale is still including the notice that you're, you know, within 1 mile of X site, which is an NPL. So,
Okay. And that addendum is the separate, yeah, you're showing it to us, a separate, not inside the contract, but a separate document that both the buyer and the seller have to sign, correct?
That's right. And yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we're
Sure.
voting on the amendment first, correct?
That is correct. I saw Delegate Healy, you had your hand up. Okay. That being the case, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, to me, I would like to pass the House version, particularly since the delegate and the senator are both in compliance, both in agreement that the House bill is what they want, and then send that back over. So let's start with the amendment from that was put on by JPR for HB 46. Do I have a motion for the amendment?
Move the amendment.
Second.
Great. Is there all in favor of the amendment? Any discussion on the amendment? Delegate Healy. Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I am hearing, if I'm out of line, please tell me that potentially that Delegate Fair had a recommendation that somewhere in between this Senate amendment, completely like getting rid of the specific URL that is addresses that concern, but keeps some viable website reference that's more specific than just saying, I guess, EPA. Ben, are you aware of that, or has that not made its way to us?
So, Mr. Chair. So,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I checked with, let's see, I checked with Delegate Fair, and I talked to staff at Senator Young's office, and
Ben, you
I
froze.
brought to their attention, just went over.
Oh, hang on a
Can you hear
second,
me?
Ben. Go back because you froze again. You talked with
Yep.
Senator Young, and because you froze there for a minute.
of course, sorry. Yep. So I called, I called Delegate Fair's office, spoke to their staff. I called Senator Young's office, spoke to their staff, checked with them about what had happened in JPR as was presented to the subcommittee just now. I let them know about the distinction with what had happened in the website that we went over. And then like I mentioned, they were inclined to click the specific website. And that's all I heard about that. I'm not sure, Delegate Lehman, if there's
Okay,
some sort
that's
of
fine.
nuance or if anyone else is on the call,
Okay.
or something like that, Mr. Chair.
I think we're good. All right, so we have in front of us now the amendment to revise the the URL language on HB 486. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am getting a text message from one of the advocates on the bill saying that that's what Delegate Lehman is saying is apparently what the members support and what the direction they want, but I'm just learning of that right now. So
Say that again.
one of the advocates for the bill was just texted me about what Delegate Lehman was saying on the call, and they were saying that the members support what Delegate Lehman was saying, but that's the first time I'm hearing of this. So,
All right, we're going to hold this. I'm not going to go. We're going to hold this bill.
No.
Delegate Boyce.
I don't think there's a reason to hold this bill. I think the clarification is that to put a very specific
Absolutely.
URL that may not exist in a year or
In a
two
year,
versus
exactly.
putting something that, like a governmental entity that's not going to go out of business tomorrow, is better than doing something so specific that it's outdated and out of code. And so, I mean, if they want to add something about other relative, but I don't think it's necessary to hold up the bill. I think it's more corrective to remove something so specific that may not exist in a year or 2 years or 5 years, and putting something in place that should have this information to begin with. So I hope that we don't hold this bill.
Thank you, Delegate Boyce, for reeling me in.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting holding it either, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so right now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the amendment as indicated that deletes the, as my grandfather say, the specificity for the URL and just keeps it very broad. I have a motion and a second on that amendment. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition of that particular amendment? Seeing none. Now, we have in front of us the bill as amended, HB 486. Is there a motion on the bill as amended?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we voting on the House bill or the Senate bill? Because I thought that the House bill was in the Senate already.
Oh, you are correct. Yeah, so what we're going to have to, you are correct. So what we're going to have to do is vote to modify the Senate version to match the House version. That's what we're going to have to do because we are in possession of the Senate version. We are not in possession of the House version. Okay. Thank you, Delegate Healy. You are correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yes,
Mr.
you are
Chair.
correct. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Delegate Healy.
I was just going to make that motion to conform the Senate bill with that one change to the House bill as we send it over.
Very good. Very good. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Clarification.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It is not as we sent it over, but as the Senate passed it, correct?
It's JPR.
JPR only.
It hasn't passed the whole Senate yet.
That's correct. Only JPR.
Got it.
Yeah, only JPR. So what we're doing now, ladies and gentlemen, is the Senate version is in our possession. And we have discussed the amendments that were put onto the House version by JPR. So now what we're going to do is we're going to amend SB 125 to look like House Bill 486 with that small amendment that we just voted on. Is everyone clear? I just want to make sure. So now we have before us now SB 125 to mirror what we just discussed on HB 486. Any additional, I got a motion and a second already. Is there any additional discussion on SB 125? Seeing none, all in favor of SB 125 as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition to SB 125 as amended? Seeing none, that SB 125 will receive a favorable report from the HRP. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience. Let's now go to SB 423. SB 423 does not have a cross file on it. So we had not had the opportunity to hear the discussion on SB 423. So Ben, if you could go through SB 423 for us and give us a brief overview of SB 423, that'd be great.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. Okay, so SB 423, we had the bill hearing yesterday. There's no fiscal impact, no House cross file, as you mentioned. SB 423 passed the Senate 46-0 and JPR unanimously. It's supported by the Maryland Clerks of the Circuit Court Association. Per the sponsor yesterday, as amended, there are no objections. The bill is modeled after a process in Baltimore City regarding recordation and liens. What it's doing is modernizing and streamlining the process for transferring real property by providing a certificate enumerating all the taxes owed and certifying that they have been paid prior to recordation of the property's transfer. And it also authorizes a county or municipality to collect a fee of up to $55 for the issuance of a certificate. And the reason this is before us, or the problem, is that oftentimes there can be taxes that parties may not be aware of, and this is an opportunity for the parties to get a certificate to make sure that all of the outstanding fees and taxes that could be on the on this transfer of property are presented before it moves forward. Yep.
Thank you, Ben. And this is something we heard either yesterday or day before yesterday. Yes, yes. I like this. This bill sounds really great. So we have, and there are no amendments on SB 423. Is that correct, Ben?
That's right, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion on SB 423?
Move favorable.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. There's motion and second on SB 423. All in favor signify, any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
It's been a long day.
Oh, tell me.
We were in JPR together forever.
I know. Any objection to?
No, no.
Okay, there's one. Any other additional objection? Okay, so so SB 423 will receive a favorable report from Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. We'll now go to SB 171, which is a cross file of HB 139. And this, as those of you who have been here for a while, this has been termed as RUBS, RUPBS, RUBS, Racial Utility Billing System. SB 171 came out of the Senate 46-0, and House Bill 139, its crossfire came out of the House 101-37. First off, Ben, can you tell me if SB 171 and HB 139 are in the identical posture?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I believe they're identical now, but the sponsors of both bills have submitted amendments subsequent to both of the bills leaving their respective chambers. The sponsors of both bills, which would be Senator Augustine and Delegate Charkoudian, submitted the amendment, which I can pull up, and that was sent out. Okay, so let's see here. 1 second.
And the amendments that you're pulling up now are for both bills, the Senate and its cross-file, the House bill, as agreed by both sponsors. Is that correct, Ben?
That's right, Mr. Chair. Agreed by both sponsors and agreed with the other stakeholders involved. The sponsor noted that this amendment has been approved by MMHA, AOPA, Realtors, and also was a product of working with the Public Justice Center too. So that is the version that for both bills, the Senate bill that the ENT and HRP has right now, 171, but also HB 139 is they want this amended version that's before the subcommittee.
Perfect. That way, once we get these bills, this bill particular out, then JPR will pass the other one, and there will be no need for a conference committee.
And I can go over it if you like,
Please,
Mr. Chair. Okay.
Please do.
Okay, so again, the subsequent amendments were made after further discussion with the parties involved. So under this new amendment, and just as a background again, as a reminder for everyone, this is about OHEP, Office of Home Energy Programs with the Department of Human Services, and which provides utility assistance to renters if they have adequate documentation. And so that's kind of what this bill is aiming to do, as it's currently been amended, to make sure that that tenants have the documentation they need to get the assistance from Office of Home Energy Programs. So the first part of the bill is mostly the existing bill that did leave HRP. There is a slight distinction though. They have the first part, so there's 8205.1, and then there's 8205.2, which is most of the substantive amended language. But what's going on here is there is let's see, the first part, again, it's all about getting the documentation for the assistance, but for 8205.1, if a landlord has a building that has 6 or more units, they are subject to this section, which requires that they provide a copy of the gas or electric bill to the tenant, or a breakdown of the utilities that the tenant is going to have to pay for. So the only exceptions to this requirement are that it doesn't apply if the tenant is making their payments directly to the utility service provider, because that's going to be something that they'll presumably have a record of. And it doesn't apply, as you mentioned at the top, Mr. Chair, it doesn't apply to a landlord that uses a ratio billing system. Big buildings use ratio utility billing systems, and those are subject to their own requirements which provide ample documentation for OHEP. The second part is with 8205.2, and this does have this is for 5 or fewer dwelling units, and this does require this is for utilities that are allocated with a ratio utility billing system. And the thinking is that usually it's not a problem where dwellings with landlords have a ratio utility billing system. So this still requires that a landlord make payments using a written lease that provides notice to the tenant that they're responsible for making their payments, and that they provide a copy of their utility bill to the tenant.
Okay. Let's open up for questions on the bill and the amendments. Any discussion on the bill? Everyone clear on what we're discussing here? Okay. And there are amendments, correct, Ben?
That's right. This is the amendment from the sponsor.
correct.
It's the Senate version.
So we need to let's get the amendments first. Is there a motion on the amendments for SB 171? So
The
moved.
amendments. Second.
Second.
Is there a second on the amendments? Any
Second.
additional discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendments on SB 171, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition to the amendments? We are now on the bill as amended. Is there a motion?
So
Okay, thank you.
Second.
And a second. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second.
All right, guys. Everyone's tired, it sounds like.
extremely.
We have a motion and a second on SB
171.
171 as amended. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition on SB 171? Seeing none, SB 171 will receive a favorable report from the committee. Our final bill this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, is SB 46, and its cross file is HB 143. SB 146, which is the bill that is in front of us right now, came out of the Senate 45-0. Its cross file, HB 143, came out of the House 136-0. And this bill is relevant to disclosures on asbestos for our condominiums. Ben, can you go through the bill for us, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I can pull up the.
Please.
Okay. Okay, so this is another bill that the subcommittee is probably familiar with. This is with asbestos disclosures. This is one of the first bills I think we really worked on in HRP with the House version. And the Senate version was heard yesterday as well. The Senate version has some slight distinctions, and that's what the senator sponsor was asking that the subcommittee pass out. And we'll go over those. And then, Mr. Chair, there was also a slight amendment that you requested as well today that was in keeping with the change that HRP made. So yesterday, the senator noted that they were removing some provisions from the bill that were in the House version, which is specifically this part of the bill you'll see in a couple places, which is about a statement as to whether the Council of Unit Owners has actual knowledge of the presence of asbestos with the transfer of a property. This was removed because in the Senate version that's before us, in the places that it appears in the bill, because there was concern that this would inadvertently or unintentionally create liability for the Council of Unit Owners. And this was a product of working with the advocates on the bill. I also checked with Delegate Foley about this as well. So that's one part of the amendments and how SB 46 is distinct from House Bill 143 that was before HRP. The other part that is unique is after that language was removed, the Senate version added the language here in paragraph 10 about how when the property is being sold, the notice has to include a statement as to whether the Council of Unit Owners has knowledge of any violation of health or building codes, including codes related to asbestos, just to sort of provide another safeguard, I suppose, and because that other language is being struck. And then, Mr. Chair, the amendment from yourself was this part. The Senate version did not remove or clarify what was being referred to in the language about on the site. And as we learned in HRP with the House bill, and after checking and just to double check with Delegate Foley, again, this is it's supposed to be in the condominium. So that was the amendment that you requested, Mr. Chair. And then the only reason there's the actual knowledge language in general in this is because this is about the vendor, which is the person who's making the initial sale of the property. So this is that is one instance perhaps where you would want actual knowledge to be involved.
And just to make clarification for everyone, vendor in a definition is a seller, not someone who is a contractor to do business. And another clarification is site has no, believe it or not, site has no definition in this article, which is why we had to use condominium instead. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we have, let's talk about the amendments. Can I get a motion on the amendments, please?
I'll move the amendments.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendments on SB 46 signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition of the amendments? On the bill as amended, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second. Any additional discussion on SB 46 as amended? Seeing none, all in favor of SB 46 as amended signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And it's that time of year, ladies and gentlemen, where fatigue is beginning to take place.
Beginning?
And I apologize if I seem to go off the rail here for a moment. But I appreciate the fact that I have a very good subcommittee that keeps me on track. I do appreciate that. And I will see you all again. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank
And a
you.
great counsel as
you.
well.
Yes,
Ben
indeed.
Rock.
Thank you, Ben.
Wonderful, Ben.